help take on that role because he's no longer with us. And so today, today's presentation for me was a little bit of a struggle. Kobus told me in June or July, he said, "You're coming to Croatia." And I said, "Well, are you sure Mary's going?" And he said, "I don't care whether Mary's going or not, you're going." And I said, I don't have anything to speak on. And he said, "Don't worry, you'll come up with something." I'm laying there thinking about what am I supposed to share. And I finally got a little bit of inspiration. And what I want to share with you is basically how can we learn to learn like Gary. I've spent a lot of time over the last few years reading books about learning. And Gary read a lot of books. We have a huge library at the office, and all these books came from their house, Mary and Gary's house. And clicker's not advancing. There we go, thanks. So, one of the books that I read was this one. It's called Range. And the subtitle is Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World. Gary was a generalist. He knew a lot about a lot of different things. He was not necessarily a specialist in everything that he did, but he was very, very good at almost everything that he did. But he had such a huge range. And in fact, can I get a different clicker, guys? Maybe I just need to click harder. So if we were to look at Gary's skill sets, and this is just very general, I'm not trying to, I didn't spend a ton of time building this out. So I just want to paint some broad strokes. And if we were to look at Gary's skill set, we could say that earlier in his life he was very athletic. He knew how to farm. He was a horseman. He was an entrepreneur. So Gary started businesses from a very young age. He was into logging. And then there was this thing that happened in his life. Also truck driving. There was the accident that he suffered. And that put him on a very, very different path. And the things that he began to learn after the accident were things like literacy. Gary mentioned that he really didn't know how to read very well when he was, before he had his accident. He learned about nutrition, anatomy, biology, chemistry, public speaking. And so if we look at Gary before, you can see that there's a real physical focus to what he was emphasizing in his learning. And if we look at after, there's much more mental focus. And one of the interesting things is, if we kind of just group these together, what happens when somebody has range is that there's innovation that happens in the middle. Yesterday, Mark Bartlett mentioned that he and HK are not chemists. They're much more biologists. And that allows them to look at what they're doing from a different angle. And in very much the same way, Gary he had so much range, he was able to look at things from such a broad perspective. And so I really want you to think about that for your own life. How can you develop range? Another book that I read was this one called Deep Work. Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. I'm not going to read this slide to you, but this is one of the most fascinating bits of information that I learned from this book. And the author talks about how when you learn something, what happens inside of your brain is that you have all of these nerves, all of these nerve cells, and there's this stuff that goes around them called myelin, and it insulates the nerves. And when you learn something new, what happens is your brain builds myelin between specific nerve interconnections. And as you get better at something, there's more and more myelination that happens. And so really, he says, really what it comes down to is learning something new requires myelination. And this myelin will only develop if you are focusing on what you're learning. In the same way that you can only build a stronger muscle if you're going to the gym and or whatever it is, if you use it in a concentrated amount of time. If you're not concentrating this learning effort, the myelin just won't happen the same way that a muscle won't be developed. Okay, this is the third book I want to talk about, Atomic Habits. How tiny changes result in remarkable results. And one of the key concepts that I took away from this book was that if you just get 1% better every day, at the end of the year, you'll be 37 times better at doing something than you were in the beginning. And if you get 1% worse, you can go to having something to almost nothing. And so just tiny incremental changes can make a huge amount of difference over time if you're persistent. And here's just a graph to kind of illustrate that concept. Okay, so I only have one video clip of Gary this year. I'm really sorry, I wish I had more. But Gary here outlines exactly, I only found this clip on Tuesday. So I actually had this whole presentation put together, and I was talking to one of our historians, her name is Karen Boren, and I said, I'd really like to find a clip about blah, 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 blah. And she said, you will not believe this. I just stumbled across a transcript this morning of Gary talking about this exact thing. So the timing was really uncanny. So I feel like everything is really aligning. So let's listen to what Gary has to say.
To be successful in any walk of life requires a tremendous amount of commitment, and then on top of that comes the requirement of discipline. And when I look back and reflect back over all of it, from beginning to present, those are the two elements that I feel were the two elements that brought me to where I am. Because I made a commitment, or made a choice, and then I made the commitment with the same intensity. And then I did a third thing that sometimes really bothers Mary and some of the co-workers, and that's that I go ahead and speak what I'm going to do before I do it. And I've watched Mary get the shakes from it, and Mary made that comment last night, don't let Gary go there, he'll see the whole vision and want to do it tomorrow. Exactly. But I believe very strongly in that for two reasons. One, if you speak your vision and speak what you feel, then that reconfirms your commitment. And once you speak it, then if you don't follow through with it, then you're a liar. And, you know, an honest person never wants to be a liar. So that's why I do it. I call it putting my back against the wall and forcing myself to make it happen. But if you just think it in your mind and you just conceive the idea and you don't make a statement, even though you're committed to that choice that you just decided, but you don't make a verbal statement about it, then there's no one to hold your feet to the fire to see it through. And that can be very challenging. It can be very difficult because, you know, you've made that commitment and you've told other people that you're going to do this. And, you know, all of a sudden people are saying, well, Gary, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And if I never made those commitments, I wouldn't have people on the outside supporting me and reminding me that I've made those commitments. And so the whole time, the whole process keeps me focused and keeps me on track of accomplishing that which I made a choice to do. And so that's why I share this with you, because I think that's where we fall short. Many times in our desires to accomplish. Because we don't want other people to look at it and say, oh, you're a failure. Oh, well, you know, you said you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and it never happened. Well, the other thing to keep in mind, just like in my own personal situation, I've made the statements, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I may not fulfill it in the exact time frame that I would like to because of circumstances, but it always happens.
So, from what Gary just said, together a list of ingredients that kind of make this secret learning sauce of Gary's. And the ingredients are passion, is number one, passion or commitment. Number two is you have to go around and you have to tell everybody. I mean, he was very, very clear about this step. He tells everybody. And then in the process of telling everybody, you are going to find the people who are going to teach you or coach you or be your cheerleaders, your cheer squad. And Gary, I love the way that Gary said they're going to, people are going to support you. He actually saw the process of telling people as a positive thing, whereas so many of us decide to not tell anybody because we think, well, if we don't tell anyone, then we don't have to do it. But he flips it around and says, no, I need to tell people so that I can get it done. The fourth ingredient, and this is my favorite, I actually talked about this ingredient to a lot of people at the office before, as I was writing this presentation, and everyone said, oh my gosh, this is the most true of all of them. You have to give yourself an unreasonable deadline. So, because in the video, Gary said, well, you know, they told me don't let Gary go see it because he'll want to do it tomorrow. I mean, he really wanted to give himself unreasonable deadlines, and it was something we struggled with at the office all the time. And the fifth ingredient is that the learning process is a journey and not a destination. And I'm going to talk about this one a little bit later. So I wanted to give you an example of Gary going through these steps, more or less, but I also want to share something that you would never have thought about before. And it's this. This is a video from Ethiopia. I shot this video. Gary was standing next to me. This is brick making. So I know that you guys all think that Gary had, passions about essential oils and all that stuff. He did, but he had a lot of other passions too. And it just blows my mind. One of them was making bricks. And I want to tell you a little bit about that to just illustrate the process. I remember the first time Gary came across an advertisement in a magazine for this brick making machine. He was flying from the US to Oman and he torn this advertisement out of the magazine. And when he landed, we were working on the Frankincense documentary, but he kept this advertisement with him, and everyone we talked to, he said, do you know anything about this brick-making machine? It was from South Africa. I mean, you could just call a phone number and buy one, and we were in Oman. And I was like, what is going on? We found somebody in Oman that had one. And, yeah, right? It's crazy. They hadn't used it. They had purchased it with some government money, and then it was just sitting in this yard. But the crazy thing is we found one. Well, then we went over to Ethiopia. This was a completely different trip. And again, he's just talking to everybody about brick making. And we found, through talking to everybody, that there was this technical college in Ethiopia, and they had a brick making factory that used all of these machines. So we extended our flight, stayed a few more days, and we went and spent a day or two at this brick-making factory so that Gary could learn all about making bricks. And we shot this video. Anyway, I'm just gonna, this video goes on forever. So that was in 2010. In 2013, Mary writes a Christmas letter, and she says, we had a wonderful time in Ecuador and celebrated the groundbreaking ceremony for the new addition to the Young Living Academy that was built for 47 students and now has 180 attending. It's going to be built with blocks, bricks, made at the farm with a new machine that makes blocks with cement and dirt. A new adventure. So Gary had purchased, I think, 2 of these machines from South Africa. Now he knew how to use them and had them shipped. This is Gary talking about making bricks at the beauty school in 2017. The kids go to the farm weekly to take classes in agriculture. They learn about manufacturing bricks. I bought the equipment from Johannesburg, South Africa, that makes bricks out of 95% dirt, 5% cement. And we build everything with our own bricks. And that's what I shipped to Nepal. We're building Nepal with. This is Gary in Nepal. There was a massive earthquake. I'm sure that you guys have heard all about this. And we're buying supplies, and we go to this village, and Gary's running all the equipment and teaching everybody how to make bricks. We slept, this was our cook tent, and people were there for months, maybe even a year or two. Just going to click through these. And all the equipment is the same. It's the same company. I'm really struggling to click. And these are members building houses in Nepal with these bricks. This is a school, and that's the house walls going up. I just want to illustrate to you, there's the machine. Maybe it may prevent you from clicking too fast. There's Gary and Jacob, you can see them kind of in the middle. And this is Ecuador. This is just last year, last fall, there was a big group that went down to make bricks for the school. So I just love that Gary was so passionate about so many things, and that the way that he figured out how to do this was that he followed his process. He followed the process of telling everybody, finding the teachers and the coaches, telling everybody that he was going to do something, and then he did it. Okay, so I just want to put a pin in the map right now. I'm going to completely shift gears and talk about something else for just a moment, and then we're going to come back to this. This is a photo of Gary taking the family, Mary and the boys, on a camping adventure into a place called Warm Springs in Idaho. And this is something that they did often every summer. And then there was a big fire that happened, I think in 2014. Obviously Gary was as well, and then he passed away. And nobody has been back there since. But this summer, there was a group of us from the office that we didn't take horses, we backpacked in. So we carried all of our stuff. And, but I had done a lot of research about all of the things that the family would do when they were in this area of Warm Springs. And we tried to recreate as many of the elements as possible. I even had a bunch of videos on my phone of Gary talking. And so when we were driving in the car, we were listening to Gary tell us these stories from the area and where he grew up. And then we just tried to do as much as possible to connect with the past that we could. This is Gary and Mary's cook area, their fire. We only had a little bit of stuff, but Mark and Crystal were with us. You saw them yesterday. And we had 11 people go with us. I actually don't have the photo of the group in my phone, so I can't show you. But this is, Gary and Jacob and Joseph catching fish. We also went fishing and caught fish and ate fish. But there was one particular element that I had made a note of as I was doing all of this historical research that we did not do. And this might sound silly, but there was just a little teeny tiny clip I found on a video of Gary in the afternoon, laying in the shade, playing a harmonica. And it was like for 3 seconds. And I don't even know if he was playing a song. I don't know if he played the harmonica, but I made a note of music. And we didn't take anything with us to make music with. But I kept it in my mind. And as we were hiking out, I kind of was asking the other people I was with, do you play the guitar or some sort of instrument? Mark plays the guitar, and but not really anybody else said that they played any instruments. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I could learn how to play an instrument. Because then, next summer we would like to go back with a some of the same people, maybe some new people, and we want to do this group every summer. And I just want to have all of these elements included in the experience. And so, a few weeks after we got back, I thought, maybe I should think about, learning how to play this instrument. But then I thought a guitar was just too big to carry, because you have to carry all your stuff and then this big guitar. So I thought, maybe I could get an ukulele. And so this is a local classified listing. I bought an ukulele for $20. Because I thought, I might not use it, I might not learn how, so I'm going to just spend $20. And this one, it even lists that it was broken and they put some glue on it. But there was a fun note. The lady said that she had played it at the local library for kids during the story time. I thought, okay, this ukulele has made music for people before. And so, I purchased it. You can tell I was really committed, right? $20. And started to play a little bit, saw some YouTube videos, messed around with it. Nothing serious. And then I was putting this presentation together, and I thought, this Gary's secret learning sauce, maybe I should put this to an experiment. And so, this is showing the extremely compressed timeline. So on Monday the 25th, we were sitting in Mary's office. We were putting her presentation together. And Ben Riley walks in, and he asked Mary, how's your presentation coming? And Mary said, it's mostly put together. And then Ben turned to me and said, John, how's your presentation going? And I said, I have no idea what I'm doing yet. But I'm thinking about talking about learning and how to learn like Gary, or kind of like these ingredients for how Gary would learn. And then we talked about this in Mary's office for a moment. And it gave me a lot of ideas. And I said, so I had learned how to play Happy Birthday that morning so that we could sing Happy Birthday to somebody at the office. So I brought the ukulele to the office, and I thought, I wonder if in 2 weeks I could learn how to play a song. Maybe I should put this to an experiment. So, that was Monday. Went home that night late. I was really busy. Didn't play. The next day was Tuesday. Super busy in the morning, busy all day. Had no idea what song I was going to play. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I better get started. So that night, I picked a song. I practiced for 2 hours. And then Wednesday I went to the office. I took the ukulele back to the office with me, and I thought, oh, Mary had mentioned that she thought my idea was good. And so I thought, okay, Mary endorsed it. That means I can spend work time to practice. So I basically played all day long. But in my office was the door closed. And my fingers were super, super sore. And then we come to Thursday, and I thought, I need to start invoking the other ingredients of the list. So I decided to just walk around the office strumming the ukulele, because I need to tell everybody what I'm doing, right? Like Gary said, I tell everybody. And so people would walk up to me and say, what are you doing? I said, I'm playing the ukulele on stage next week in Croatia. So I'm learning how. And they said, who assigned you to do that? I said, I kind of assigned myself. They're like, okay, good luck. Something magical happened, like truly magical. As I was playing, I was on the 3rd floor. I went to every floor and I just walked the entire building. I was strumming, and this lady stands up and she says to me, Aloha, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm going to play the ukulele next week in Croatia, and so I'm learning how. And she said, I'll help you. So I found a teacher. I thought, this is magical, that the ingredients are coming together. So we actually didn't spend very much time playing playing together, but she helped me know how to hold it a little bit, and she said, "Oh, your fingering is pretty good." And so then I thought, okay, I need to get really committed. So I sent Cobus a text on Thursday night, and I said, "I have a surprise for you. I'm going to play the ukulele and sing part of my presentation next week." I'm committed. Then came Friday. Friday was the draft horse show. So we were down at the farm all day. It was really busy. I had no time to practice. I did play for a couple hours that night. Slept at the farm so that I didn't have to drive and I could save time. And then I thought, okay, I need to, really get this going. So I texted Anu and said, "Hey, this might sound ridiculous, but I'm going to sing and play the ukulele on stage next week as part of my presentation. I'm not a musician, but it will all make sense in the end. I assume that will require an extra microphone on a stand or something like that. I'm not an expert, so I'm not asking for much." And got to, didn't really practice much on Saturday, but every chance I had as we were, at the farm, I pulled the ukulele out and played it and told everybody. I said, "I'm playing next week in Croatia." And they're like, it was about, it was either Friday or Saturday that I was able to begin to strum and sing at the same time. Singing and strumming at the same time, they're completely different skills. And I don't sing either, so. Sunday, I mostly have the chords memorized and the words memorized. Monday, I went around to the office, and every meeting that I was in, I was sitting playing really quietly, and again, telling everybody. And then Tuesday morning, same thing, just practicing my guts out. And then went to the airport Wednesday morning, and then I've been here for 3 days, so I haven't practiced much. But here we are. We are 2 today. So I mentioned that I was going to come back to the 5th ingredient. This is a journey, not a destination. And I just want to mention really quickly one of Gary's experiences, which was dog sledding. The funny thing is, you might think that I would talk about dog sledding for the unreasonable deadline part of it, because Gary, I think he did 6 or 4 days of preparation and then did these really long races. But the thing that I really want to talk about is how Gary approached this from the sense of this is a journey and not a destination. Gary was in a lot of pain when he was doing these races. And the first race was 200 miles, and I'm already over time, so I'm kind of going to just skip ahead a little bit here. No? Okay. So, it was obviously really cold, but I just want to mention that I took all of these photographs, and I was in a car, and Gary would go about 50 miles, and then there would be an intersection with a road or a town. And so I would go and find him, and then take a photo of him going through this area. And it was the middle of the night, and I knew where they were going to be coming from, and so I hiked up the trail a little bit, and took this photo. But later on, Gary said, "John, you have no idea how much it meant to me when I came around the corner and I saw you there." Everybody needs a cheer squad, including Gary. This is showing the Gary won $250 for this race. But this also shows the order in which everybody completed. And if you notice, Gary is listed as number 20, and then there's Patrick, who was 21. Well, actually, so Patrick was Gary's coach. This was his first race, and so he was working with Patrick, and the two of them stayed together so that Gary would have, if he ran into trouble, and it was something that he couldn't deal with on his own, that Patrick could help him. The rules were that you couldn't receive help from anyone outside of people who were also racing. And so if Patrick is racing also, then he can help Gary. And so I just think this is a beautiful example of finding people in your life that can help you be your coach. But Gary took second to last. But he really would have taken last, except that Patrick said, "Will you let me go last? Because I want to win the red lantern." If you're last, you get this red lantern. That's why Patrick was holding the red lantern. And Gary said, "Okay, I'll finish before you." And then he did this other race that was 300 miles. And it was just a few days later, and I don't think that Gary had fully recovered from the previous one. And it took about 72 hours. I think you were required to finish the race within 72 hours in order to get an official finish title. And this is about probably 65 hours, 68 hours into the race. I think Gary had about 50 more miles to go. And he was not doing well. Mostly he was just suffering from a lot of pain. He had a lot of pain in his back and his neck, obviously from the injuries that he had earlier in life. And we were sitting there and we couldn't help him. It was really painful. And Mary was there, and we just had to stand on the side, and I just took pictures. And but we were kind of just there cheering him on. And this is Gary finishing. And the race officials had actually told him, they're like, "You're not going to finish within the 72-hour time limit." And he said, "I don't care. I don't care whether you give me an official finishing recognition or not. I'm going to finish this race. It might be on my time." So, I'm sorry. This is Gary hugging Joseph at the finish, and then Mary, of course. And from what I understand, the race officials actually did give him, decided to give him an official finishing qualification just due to his tenacity and his his fortitude and not willing to give up. Oh, thank you. So. This is just a really great example for me that life is really a journey and not a destination. And Gary didn't care that he was finishing last or even after the time had ended. He said, "No matter what, I'm finishing because I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm doing this for myself." So, the time has come, and I really hope this goes well. It might not, but I want you to sing along with me, and I want you to imagine that we are up in the mountains together, sitting around a campfire, and let's sing the song together. This is one of the most well-known songs in the whole world. I think it was on the top of the digital music chart for more time than any song, so hopefully you know it. And I'm going to sing, do my best, and Yeah, let's sing this for Gary.
Colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by.
I see friends shaking hands, singing, how do you do? They're really singing, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble runs like lemon drops. I love the chimney top, that's where you'll find Wow, that was such a treat. I've actually always had a dream of learning to play an instrument, and I've imagined myself going to the city and busking just for fun, because you can put smiles on people's faces. This is what COVID's asked me to speak about, the spirit of young living. And I think the spirit is just continually challenge yourself to achieve your highest potential. The example that Gary gave us, and the example that he infused into this community. And the amazing thing about all of this is I got way more out of this presentation than I put into it. All the other ones I feel like, wow, this kind of sucks my life out of me, but this one was so much fun to put together. And I think it's because I really was bettering myself, I was learning, and I was broadening my skill set. I know that all of you have dreams that are unrealized. And maybe those dreams were from when you were a child, once in a lullaby. Or maybe those dreams are from the time that you're an adult. But like the lyrics of the song say, dreams really do come true. You just have to go out there and work for them. And I hope that you can just apply Gary's secret learning sauce ingredients, and you can achieve your dreams too. Thank you very much.